Yeah, so at the end of last year, you seemed to kind of settle into a role, maybe for lack of a better way of putting it. Can you just talk about your development last year and how that's carrying over to this year?
Well, last year, I really just started getting more confident in my game, being able to, find my role within the team without disrupting anything that was happening. At the beginning of the season, I was really just trying to get back to end up playing again, because after a year, things move a lot quicker than you remember. Coming off of the end of the year like that really gave me confidence in the summer to work harder and become more of a leader. So this year I've taken on more of a vocal leadership role, which includes everything that I did last year and some.
You think that's Do you think that's in a way kind of similar to what the team had to go through? You guys were unsettled at this time last year, and you kind of found your way, and we're playing pretty well at the end of the year.
Yeah, that's kind of really what it went through, having the losses that we had that were so unexpected. Everybody had to figure out a new role from what it was supposed to be, so it took a little bit longer. But, by the end of the year, we were playing our best basketball, and this season we're not going to start off the same way we did last season.
Can you talk more about how you plan to carry that over this year, and kind of thoughts about the team's chemistry as well as you head into the season?
Well, the team's chemistry is a lot stronger than it was last year, simply because we got extra time to practice. So you know each other's games a little bit better than we could last year. Everybody had their roles defined, so you have no excuse for not being able to perform your role. If you don't, then that's on you. And in order for us to win, we need everybody to perform the roles that they were assigned. That makes it so much easier for everybody, because last year nobody really knew what to do, and this year it's like, here's your role, do your role, and we'll win. So it's a lot easier this year.
You also have a lot of freshmen this year, so what's that like, trying to make sure they know what they're doing and get them acclimated to the style of play you guys have?
Well, at times it's kind of frustrating, but then you have to think about when you were a freshman and how fast the game moved. For me, it slowed down quite a bit, so sometimes it's like, why did you do that or this? But at the end of the day, they're all coming along very quickly. They're all learning, and most importantly, they just listen to what I have to say, because they know it's not selfish. I just want to make them better, and that's what I really think is the best about the freshmen that we have come in, because they're coachable.
One thing that officials are going to call more this year is hand checks. And I just wondered kind of how you think that might affect the complexion of the game and maybe what you've seen of it so far.
Well, there's going to be a lot more free throws, let's say that. They're calling the game quite differently, so you have to adjust accordingly, even in the post. Everybody just has to make sure that you keep your hands off of each other, basically, because there were a lot of free throws shot in our scrimmage. We got to make sure that we play better defense. That's why we stay in our gaps, help each other out, so you don't have to put your hand on somebody.
If I have this right, also new rule change is that if you have the ball stay under the basket and it's a spot, you can actually move within 3 feet of that spot. You can even back up 3 feet to get a better angle. Is that correct? And
You can back up as far as you want.
Okay.
But you just can't go. You can only go to the side 3 feet. So your 1 foot has to be inside the box. So he gives you like a 3-foot box, and then 1 foot has to stay in it so you can lean over and pass. But you can't move outside of that. So, I would just have 1 foot that you stay cemented, just so the referee doesn't take the ball and make it a turnover.
Do you find yourself having to think maybe more, be more cerebral about the game because, all these rule changes and little things kind of maybe add up?
When it comes to guarding the post, it's quite different. It was a lot more physical last year. But at the same time, it's going to be an advantage for me because I lost my 20 pounds, so I'm quicker. So now the same post that I'm going to have to guard are going to have to, do the same thing when I face up and try to drive them. So, it'll balance out. I'll make sure I change the way I play defense so I'm not in foul trouble for the team.
You mentioned the 20 pounds lost. Was that something you consciously thought about last year, that, at the end of the year, let's do this? I think it can make me better?
Yeah, it was just one of those things where, we had to feel out how my body could adjust to gaining the weight because I was about 235 or 230 before the season started, but we didn't really have a big man, so I put on the weight just so I could be that guy, man in the middle, but it made me slower, less athletic. Everything just felt like it was a step too slow. So by the end of the season, Coach Mack and I sat down and we thought that this would be the best thing. So I slimmed down to about 225 to 227.
We haven't seen Matt or Jalen in games yet. What do they bring to the team, in your opinion, and what's it been like going against them in practice?
Matt and Jalen.
Matt and Jalen. What did I say, James?
That's what I thought you said.
I meant Jalen. I'm sorry.
Well, Jalen is the most athletic person I've ever seen in my whole entire life. Freak athlete. He knows how to use his body well. He's just learning more post moves. So for him, it's gonna be a progress. He just needs to stay with Coach like he's doing now and work on some post moves with Matt. It's tough to guard him in practice. He's like 50 pounds heavier than me. Once he gets me on the block, just try to wall up if I can. He has a left hook, right hook, has a little mid-range shot. He's one of the smartest players I've played against, can pass well out the post, so it's going to be a challenge for anybody that goes up against Matt. And when Jalen figures it out and comes along later in the season, it's going to be exciting to watch and be a part of.
Miles, how are you feeling physically? Where do you feel like you're at percentage-wise in terms of your progress?
Right now, I could say I'm about 85 to 90%. I've been doing a lot of extra conditioning with the coaching staff after practices and on my own. I'm feeling really good. I'm still a little bit out of shape, but I definitely say about next week and a half, I should be definitely full go, 100%.
Miles, can you just talk a little bit about being able to finally play for the team after having the year of ineligibility and then having the knee injury? This has kind of been a long time coming for you.
Definitely, it's a blessing. This is what I've been waiting for the last 2 years. Sitting out last year definitely was tough for me. But the greatest part is I had an amazing coaching staff and amazing teammates and the teachers and friends. Everyone still stuck by me regardless of the situation. And then to finally have the year over and then actually get working with the team in the summer was amazing because I've lost a lot of weight since I first came on campus. I've gotten a lot better from when I first got here. And then the knee surgery to happen, of course that hurt a lot because after all this hard work and after sitting out, now I got to sit out even more. It was definitely tough, but of course, once again, Coach Mack was there for me. Everybody was there for me. When I was in the surgery bed, the coach was right there. It was amazing. I had a great trainers from David Flukes and Coach Jennings who stuck by me. But it was definitely a great experience. Like I said before, sitting out last year only made me a better person, and the knee injury only made me appreciate the game that much more because it's just you got to take every day like it's your last, and that's how I want to play for the rest of the year.
Can you talk about that last part you said? Because I know you said before that it was a time of soul searching for you. You had to decide whether you really loved basketball as much as you thought you did. What was that process like?
For the first time in my life, I had to experience not having basketball, which was very new for me because my whole life basketball this is all I've been. So last year I had the opportunity to focus on something else besides basketball. Realize what's bigger than there's things bigger than basketball. Getting to my academics, figuring out what I want to major in. Getting closer with the players and the coaches and trying to be there even when I'm not even on the court and be a support system. I think personally it was a learning experience. I thank God for even putting me in that situation, because for somebody like me, academics and thinking outside of basketball wasn't something I did a lot, and for the first time I actually had to. And it only did but make me better and make me, just like I said, appreciate the game that much more. Every day I try to give it my all. I'm not the greatest. I'm not perfect and say I'm going to have a great day every day. But that's why I have teammates and coaches who's going to stick there by me when it comes to watching film and when it comes to even practices and helping me get reps and stuff, because of course I'm later than everybody else. But everyone's still stuck by me, and you couldn't ask for anything better, and just great people, and I appreciate it all.
One more question.
I do have one more question. Can you talk about the new, emphasis on the hand check rule and how that will affect you as a guard?
That when we had our it's tough. I'm not the greatest defensive player, but also knowing that now having this hand check rule is definitely different for us, because now you can't even pressure as much as you want. Everything is more just body, no hands at all. It's tougher, but it just forces you to just play honest defense now. Just move your feet and you'll be fine. We have, with our system, it's a lot of help, and we have gaps. So even when we're running late, we have somebody to help us out there. If we're a little behind here, we have someone to help us there. So of course, the hand check rule helps us. What's the word? It just helps everybody in their own place. If you lack a little bit on defense, with the hand check rule, as long as you don't show your hands and you just move your feet and just play hard, you'll be fine.
A lot of new pieces this year, and freshmen, Stainbrook actually being able to play. What have things been like here in the preseason for you guys?
It's been long, and I don't say that in any negative way. But I think that if you polled every Division I coach around the country, I'm sure each one of them has used the preseason a little bit differently. You felt like in years past you had a couple weeks to really cram in everything, and before your first exhibition game or your first game, and it's just been a little bit longer. So for us, it's sort of been trial by error, reading our players in terms of fatigue, too many days in a row, maybe only having a non-contact practice. But we have more players than we did a year ago. We also have more inexperience than we did a year ago. But I like our kids' effort. I think we have a ways to go, and I think you learn more about your team when you start playing opponents than maybe you do when you're practicing versus yourself.
Last year heading in, you didn't have a whole lot of experience in your backcourt with D and Samaje, and then D gets hurt. Can you talk about those two guys and how they've developed, and going in this year, how it's different than last year for them?
Well, both of them played a lot of minutes a year ago, and I'd like to think that experience that they gained, some good, some bad, will allow them to have even better junior and sophomore years respectively. D's been a little bit banged up, against in Musketeer Madness. He suffered a concussion, so he's been out for a few days. I'm not sure when he'll return, but he's had a great preseason. I think he's really grown into to more of the consummate point guard. Think pass first. We've defined his role a little bit clearer. Probably doesn't have as much pressure on him to score baskets maybe than he did a year ago. And I think Samaje, to me, is one of the best players in the country. He has to grow in a leadership role. Just because you're a talented player doesn't mean that everybody's going to listen or everybody's going to be led. And I think that's always been hard for him because he's more of an introverted kid, and you guys know him off the floor when you talk to him. But he's grown immensely in his 1 year, and I think his skill set is much improved. And I like to think that the new rules, whatever you think of them, shouldn't or should help him be an even better offensive player.
So what do you think?
I think they stink. I do. There's no way that they can call the game like they called our scrimmage. And, you know, there was this big drive a year ago to say, hey, clean up the game. And fans want to see more scoring, and this is ridiculous. Georgetown, Tennessee's in the 40s. But I don't think fans, at least in the arenas I've ever been in, whether I was a fan, a player, a coach, want to see, you know, one team shoot 50 free throws and the other team shoot 46 free throws. Usually at some point, the boo birds start, you know, ringing in, and you hear, you know, fans yelling out, let them play. And I think that's going to be a real problem. You know, everybody wants to mirror what the NBA's done. Well, the NBA did it a few years ago. Let's let the college game do it. There are extraordinary differences between the NBA and college basketball. Number one, the skill level is here and here, period. The second thing is there's star power in the NBA. If LeBron James hand checks, you know, Ricky Rubio, they're not calling that. Well, they're not going to treat D. Davis like they treat Tim Whalen on my. They're going to treat every kid the exact same way. So whoever hand checks, it's just going to be arm in the air, foul. And the next thing you know, again, if it becomes a free throw shooting contest, I don't think that's what fans want to see. And you know, they can say that the game's going to be adjusted all they want, or players will adjust. They're going to be adjusting on the bench. I think it's a real problem. I think that's just one man's opinion.
How has that changed the way you guys practice?
Well, we've brought in officials as much as we can, and we've tried to, you know, with the guys that officiate during our practice, try to call more of those. But again, you know, Miles said it best: you try to defend without using your hands. But you know, there's just certain instances where if a kid's dribbling laterally and not necessarily making a threatening move, you know, I don't know how you call that a foul.
How do you see things shaken out on the front line? I mean, last year you guys had Travis Taylor, who was a very consistent rebounder and force for you. How do you see these other guys blending together this year?
Well, I think we're much bigger than we were a year ago. You know, Travis and Jeff were very athletic, and they move their feet extremely well. And so we're a little different in the sense that we have bigger players, wider players. You know, I don't know. I think there's some areas that we gain some positives, and I think there's some areas where, you know, they're negatives a little bit. You know, we were one of the best, in my opinion, best teams in the country at hedging ball screens and being able to recover. And that foot speed that we had at the 4 and the undersized 5 is a little bit different than we have this year. You know, on the other side of it, I think we have guys that know how to use their caboose, and I think they know how to post up. We can play through Matt. We can play through Isaiah. Jalen is just learning, but he's a handful inside. But, you know, again, what you gain a little bit on the offensive end, you know, we may have to adjust a little bit on the defensive end.
As you head into the scrimmage against Quincy, what are you looking for specifically from your team in a scrimmage like that?
Well, it'd just be nice to play somebody different. I'd like to see everything that we've been working on. You know, that identity of being a team that's attacking on offense, that plays inside out, and then on the defensive end, just be who we are every day and who we preach every day, and that is a team that makes you take tough twos and rebounds the basketball. Doesn't give second shots. And, you know, Quincy, as most Division II teams will probably present some different challenges that we may not see all year. They may play 4 guards at one point. But again, you know, results aside, I want to see the things that we've been working on extremely hard here over the last 3 weeks at least be emphasized and be able to be pointed out as doing it correctly when we play on Saturday.
One of the veteran players that maybe doesn't get talked about as much in the preseason hasn't been is Justin Martin. How's he been doing in the preseason and, you know, coming off a season where he started really well and struggled through the end?
Well, I think Justin provides a little bit of versatility for us. You know, in years past, we've primarily only played him at the small forward position. I feel like this year we can play him a little bit at the 4 as well, and so he's learned both positions. A guy that's capable of playing a stretch 4 for us, at the same time also play on the perimeter. So, the last week or so he's been battling a little bit of a toe injury. I don't know if he broke it or not, but he sort of has been moving gingerly, so to speak. But he's done a really good job. He's practiced with more effort, more energy. I think, again, he provides that same mobility we had a year ago at the 4 position. Just not sure at this point how many minutes will be secured for him at the 4 versus the 3, based on the other players that we have in our backcourt.
Last year, you were so shorthanded at certain points in the season. How much does just having that depth back this year help you guys out?
Well, I would just think back to times a year ago where when a guy, for instance, D hurt his wrist or got a concussion, and then, Matt Stainbrook in the second half of the year had that knee surgery. We were doing more drill work, and certainly you get into more of the scouting aspect end of January and February. But it was really hard to do things and really gain a symmetry at both ends of the floor going 5-on-5 because we just didn't have enough players. And when we did fill out, enough of a situation to have 5-on-5, 2 or 3 of those players were walk-ons that were trying, but they just weren't capable of playing at that level. So it's much different this year. We feel like we can go combinations in practice. We can slide Justin over to the 4. We can go big and put Jalen and Matt in at the same time. So I think, for us, just finding the right fits based on who we play, I think it'll be a much greater advantage than we had a year ago, certainly.